So what else is new with Minnesota news? Downtrodden Israelites come before downtrodden Minnesotans.
The president-elect laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery this morning. He was joined by Vice President-elect Joe Biden and their wives. Negotiations produce a tentative ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Tanks and armored cars rolling back into Israel after 3 weeks of fighting, which left 1,300 Palestinians dead. Hamas promising to honor the ceasefire as long as Israel withdraws completely. Israeli forces saying they will go if Palestinian militants hold their fire. The U.S., France, Germany, and Great Britain promising to deliver humanitarian aid.
We've just been through some of the coldest days of the winter, hopefully. But imagine if your heater wasn't working properly.
That's exactly the situation facing some residents of a Minneapolis public housing complex, and some are still having troubles tonight. Fox 9's Paul Bloom is live in Minneapolis with the details. Paul, what's up?
Tom and Marnie, residents of the Cedar Towers complex behind me, are angry and they are upset. They claim that during the last cold days, those frigid cold days, many of them had little or no heat inside. Now, these buildings are owned and maintained by the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. The agency did acknowledge to me that it has had sporadic heating issues over the last few days and insists its staff is doing everything it can to keep its tenants warm.
I'll turn it up until I hear the radiator kick in.
Phil Punchakar lives up on the 18th floor of Cedar Towers.
It's a very vulnerable clientele. They kind of treat us, like a piece of meat.
With hand warmers on his bedside table, Punchakar argues that heat should never have to be an issue for residents paying monthly rent in public housing.
A lot of residents have been cold.
Not when we've just lived through several days of sub-zero temperatures.
We shouldn't have to beg for our heat. It's an everyday life thing. We need it to survive.
The Minneapolis Public Housing Authority is responsible for these high-rise towers. In fact, the agency oversees 41 similar apartment buildings across the city. No one wanted to appear on camera with us, but the manager on duty tells Fox 9 that her office has received a lot of no heat calls to their emergency phone line the last few days. The MPHA blames the bitterly cold weather for boiler problems and the fact that air is getting into the heating lines, causing circulation blockages. She urges anyone with issues to call them immediately and vows they will respond quickly.
But we've been calling in work orders since last week, and nothing has been done.
Heather Gilmore has been disappointed by the response.
I've had to put on layers and layers of clothing and pile up blankets just to keep warm.
She claims that she went without heat for several days before coming home on Sunday to a warm unit. Her experience has left her angry and frustrated during the coldest days of the season.
And it is unlivable conditions because you can't, in this weather, you can't live indoors with no heat.
We're told by officials at City Hall that the fire marshal's office is responsible for enforcement of heating violations. We are told that the complaints that come from these complexes have not reached that level of response yet. Again, the Housing Authority insists it is doing absolutely everything it can to make sure its heat is flowing properly to all of its nearly 5,800 apartment rental units across the city. Reporting live in Minneapolis tonight, Paul Bloom, Fox 9 News.
Thanks, Paul. Well, bad economy must mean those spendy Super Bowl ads are getting cheaper, right?
Yes, again, coming up, see just how high prices are going to soar this year, plus which companies are backing out to save cash.
So, some Super Bowl prices still way up. The temperature, it's also up there. For now.